Hello, everyone, and welcome to angelMD's Syndicate presentation for Non-Invasics. On the webinar with us today are our two Syndicate leads, Dr. Jaggi Kaira, an OBGYN in the Houston area, as well as Dr. Sunil Panchal, an anesthesiologist and pain management specialist from the Tampa area, along with Non-Invasics CEO Graham Randall. This will be the second Syndicate for Non-Invasics, following the initial raise in January of this year. Non-Invasics also received an investment from angelMD's Catalyst Fund. Noninvasix is developing a patient monitoring device to directly, accurately, and non-invasively measure brain oxygenation in preterm babies in the NICU. For more information on Noninvasix, please visit their profile page here on angelMD, as well as what is available on this Syndicate page. Dr. Kaira, I'll let you take it from here to give a brief introduction on how you became involved with Noninvasix.
Yeah, I'd love to, John. I got introduced to Non-Invasix through the angelMD platform, and after being a part of the angelMD organization and network, this company struck me as being something that can make an incredible difference in the world of neonatology. As an obstetrician, selfishly, I want my babies to do well, and this novel technology gives the ability in real time for neonatologists to make critical decisions in terms of how to treat children who could be suffering from an anoxic event. I really saw the value in its application, not just in neonatology, but also it seems like it's going to have a pretty remarkable application across the board in any field of medicine that requires that type of real-time tech. After getting to know Graham and the strides he's made with this company, it's just been really incredible. And I was happy to serve as a syndicate lead the first time around, and since then he's made some incredible progress.
Hi, this is Sunil Panchal. I've been very interested in this technology after reviewing this through the angelMD platform. As reaching back to my original background as an anesthesiologist, this technology speaks to me not only in terms of its use in the neonatology area, but in terms of real-time monitoring in the intraoperative arena, as well as its future applications in regards to real-time measurements of hemoglobin, which would be useful in the intraoperative as well as the intensive care arena as well. I think that would have a significant impact in improving patient outcomes. And I'm happy to be involved as a syndicate lead for this project.
Thanks, Sunil. And Graham, why don't you go ahead and take it away and give us your pitch for Noninvasix.
Great. Thanks, John, and thank you, Jaggi and Sunil. I'm Graham Randall, CEO of Noninvasix, and I appreciate your time. So we're going to start off with oxygen, which is fundamental to life, as most of us know. Cells consume oxygen in order to create energy, and when they're deprived of oxygen, they die. And as a result, our bodies have evolved elaborate networks of arteries and veins in order to ensure an adequate oxygen supply to our organs. If that oxygen supply is disrupted, then organs die, and in the worst case, the patient dies. So as critical as oxygen is to the patient, you would think that doctors would have sophisticated tools for monitoring the adequacy of the blood supply. But that's not actually the case. The tools we have today are either crude or invasive. And as a result, inadequate perfusion, i.e. shock, is a major cause of death and permanent disability in hospitals today. It's the #1 cause of death in the ICU. It's the #1 cause of maternal death. And in the NICU, it's the cause of 23% of cases of neonatal death. That's second only to prematurity itself. We're actually going to start off as our beachhead market in the NICU because NICUs are one of the most profitable departments in a hospital. The FDA is very supportive of pediatric devices, and there's really a desperate need for a solution for these preterm babies. So we dig in on this problem. Every year in the United States, there are 340,000 preterm babies born. They are all at increased risk for low brain oxygenation, which is a result of their fact that they're premature. They have immature cerebral blood flow. They have impaired blood flow regulation. And right now, all cases of hypoxia go undetected. And the reason for that is we just don't have any reliable tools for non-invasively measuring brain oxygenation in preterm babies. Doctors don't usually know that there's a problem with these babies until they go into seizure or the baby turns blue, in which case they can begin treatment, hypothermic therapy, but that therapy must begin within 6 hours, and cognitive deficits are still likely. So that's what we need, is a tool that will allow doctors to detect hypoxia as it occurs. And this would allow doctors to intervene by increasing ventilator support, giving volume or red blood cell transfusions, or increasing vasopressors. And we believe that we can reduce injury by 50 to 75%. Noninvasix has developed just such a technology based on optoacoustics. It's going to revolutionize the NICU by allowing neonatologists to directly, accurately, and non-invasively monitor the oxygenation of a baby's brain in real time. The technology was developed with over $6 million in DoD and NIH grant funding at the University of Texas Medical Branch. It's been proven in animal and human testing, including fetuses, neonates, and adults. It's protected by 7 issued patents, which we've exclusively licensed from UT, and we've met with the FDA. We have an agreed upon de novo 510(k) pathway. That means that the FDA considers this a non-significant risk device. So how does it work? Well, our headgear pulses safe near-infrared light into the superior sagittal sinus. That's the main vein that drains the brain. The hemoglobin in that vein absorbs the light and thermally expands very rapidly, sending back a pressure wave or an acoustic wave that's detectable with an ultrasound transducer. The amplitude of that wave is directly proportional to the amount of hemoglobin that absorbed the light. What differentiates our technology from any other technology is that because we know the time of flight through tissue, the time of flight of sound through tissue, we know exactly where that signal originated with millimeter precision. So we call this precision oximetry, the ability to know with millimeter precision exactly what the oxygenation is within any blood vessel in the body. And so let's take a look at these other crude and invasive technologies I mentioned earlier. The gold standard is the jugular bolt catheter, which is invasive, it's difficult to use, but it's a gold standard because it provides absolute values of cerebral venous oxygenation. Pulse oximetry is ubiquitous in the hospitals today, but it's not specific for brain oxygenation. It measures the oxygenation of the capillaries in your fingertip. Near-infrared spectroscopy has had limited adoption in NICUs today because it does not provide those absolute values of cerebral venous oxygenation. It is a regional monitor of cerebral oxygenation in general. Non-invasive technology is the only technology to provide a non-invasive absolute value of cerebral venous oxygenation. And because it's non-invasive, it's suitable for neonates. So we have some great testimonials. Dr. Gary Hankins, was the chairman of the ACOG's Task Force on Neonatal Encephalopathy, said that this technology has the potential to eliminate up to 90% of cases of hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy and subsequent permanent brain injuries such as cerebral palsy. And our NIH review committee said that this technology is huge, game-changing clinically, and likely to succeed. So we've built 3 generations of this technology, starting with our original lab prototype on the left, and then we built our first medical grade system that we did some tests on adult traumatic brain injury patients. This thing was the size of a washing machine. And then we built our current clinical prototype, which is much smaller. It uses custom laser diodes, but it was built with the FDA compliance in mind. So our next step is to build our final manufacturing prototype. To show you some data of how accurate this technology is, we did some studies on sheep where we would drill a hole through the skull, insert a catheter into the superior sagittal sinus, put our probe on the surface of the scalp, and then the sheep were on inhaled oxygen. So we were able to take them up and down through several courses of oxygenation. And you can see that the blue dots, which are the optoacoustic measurements, correlate very well with the red invasive measurements. The FDA was very impressed with this graph. We've also done studies with neonates in the NICU. Obviously, for ethical reasons, we cannot put a catheter into the brain, so we don't have any comparables, but you can see that we got reasonable numbers from those babies. So I mentioned earlier, we've met with the FDA. We have agreed upon 510(k) pathway, de novo 510(k). We are proposing 2 studies. One is an accuracy study in 22 adult volunteers, where we put a catheter into the vein in the arm and then measure our accuracy with our probe on the surface of the skin. And then a second study to show safety with 20 neonates. The FDA's major safety concern with our technology is pressure ulcers with the babies. So we need to prove to them that we don't have any problems with that. Our business model is familiar to most people in the medical device industry. It's the razor and blades model, where we have a high margin disposable coupled with a capital expenditure console, and these prices are comparable to what near-infrared spectroscopy is charging today. Reimbursement is simple, actually. In the NICU, the babies are all reimbursed on DRGs or fee-for-service, and so we would not require any specific CPT codes in order to pay for this usage of this device. But we also look at the long-term cost savings. This is becoming a short-term and long-term cost savings. It's becoming more and more important, of course. We commissioned a third-party value analysis to look at the potential cost savings by using our device, and they found that in the short term, from the perspective of the NICU, a typical NICU with 12 beds servicing 300 babies a year could save $1.1 million by using our device. And that's based on some research that they found that said that 30% of the cost of caring for a baby in the NICU is the burden of hypoxia. And over the long term, we're looking at savings of $2.4 to $6.2 million per year by reducing the lifetime direct medical costs of hypoxia-induced cerebral palsy. Historically, cost savings to the insurers has not been a major purchasing driver, but as we move towards an ACO model, this is becoming more and more important. So as Jaggy mentioned earlier, and Sunil as well, the platform technology aspect of this opportunity is very interesting. We can take our technology, couple it with a low-powered or high-powered laser, and address a lot of different applications in the hospital, including intracranial hematoma diagnosis, adult brain oximetry, central venous oximetry, fetal brain oximetry, hemoglobin concentration monitoring, and extracorporeal monitoring. And so as a result, the total market potential for this technology is enormous, over $5 billion in the United States, nearly $13 billion worldwide. We're starting in pediatrics because there's a desperate need and it's a good-sized market. But we plan to very rapidly expand out to adult brain oximetry, central venous oximetry, and what we think is the largest market opportunity, total hemoglobin monitoring. The total hemoglobin blood test is most commonly ordered blood test today. We can do it non-invasively and continuously, so we think it has the potential to be the next vital sign. A little bit about our team. We're an experienced team. This is the third startup that I've run as the CEO. My co-founder, Dr. Donald Pro, is the chairman of anesthesiology at the UTMB and is one of the inventors of the technology. And then on the engineering side, we have partnered with Biotex, which is the company that commercialized Visualaze, which was a laser ablation for pediatric neurosurgery technology, which they sold to Medtronic for over $100 million. They have the medical device experience and the laser experience to actually build this device and help us get it to market. We've also got some great partners, University of Texas Medical Branch, of course, and Texas Children's Hospital, LA Children's Hospital. And we've been through some fantastic accelerators, including TMCX and JLabs. I'd like to call attention, most importantly, though, to Philips HealthWorks. Last year, we were tapped for the HealthWorks program, which is Philips' early startup engagement program. I spent the fall in Eindhoven working with the team that helps internal Philips research technologies get ready for market. So we were able to work with their health economics and market access team, their regulatory teams, their business modeling teams. And because Philips is the market leader in patient monitoring, they monitor over 300 million patients a year. A lot of this information was extremely relevant to our business. We are now in what Philips calls the impact phase of their program. We have completed a due diligence process where they've gone through our books and our technology, our patents and everything, and they continue to talk to us, and we are now working out what our relationship will be going forward. Prizes and awards, we've won quite some significant prizes, over $100,000 at the Texas New Ventures competition. But what I'm most proud of is second place at Impact Pediatric Health. This was judged by 9 of the top children's hospitals in the United States. They grilled me really hard, and that was a very good outcome. So where are we today? We've raised over $3 million in non-dilutive grants and equity. We've built 3 generations of clinical prototypes, which we've tested in sheep, adults, neonates, and fetuses. We've met with the FDA. We have an agreed-upon 510(k) pathway, and we have issued IP. We're aggressively managing that portfolio.
And where are we going? We anticipate the end of this year or early next year raising a Series A, which would consist of $6.5 million in new money, which would take us all the way through 510K clearance, at which point we think that would probably be our first potential exit opportunity, or if we choose to go it alone, we'd be raising a Series B at that point, which would allow us to launch into the NICUs. Our product expansion strategy, which we developed with Philips HealthWorks, is to very rapidly expand into those other markets. We developed a regulatory strategy that would allow us to add on new products in less than 12 months for less than $1 million in revenue, for less than $1 million in investment. And our exit strategy is that we would expect to be acquired by a patient monitoring or a tissue oximetry company, such as Philips or GE or Masimo, Space Labs or Medtronic. A good comparable is that Somanetics, which invented near-infrared spectroscopy, sold to Covidien for $250 million in 2010. That was 5 times revenues. And just to wrap up here, this year has been very productive. In January, we closed on $955,000 from the new Texas Medical Center Venture Fund and the angelMD Syndicate and Catalyst Fund. We began developing our manufacturing prototype. We completed the due diligence process with Philips, and we were just awarded a $179,000 NIH grant to develop neonatal hemoglobin concentration monitoring. We think there's huge potential for that. The ability to reduce heel sticks in the NICU is something that's of interest to everybody, not just patients and parents. With just some details of the raise, we're raising $300,000, and this is money to support our operations to bridge the Series A, which, as I mentioned, we expect the end of this year or Q1 of 2019. The terms are the same terms as earlier this year. It's a convertible note at 7% with a $6.5 million valuation cap. There's a 10% conversion discount, and there's a 1.25x liquidation preference. So I appreciate your time, and I hope you will consider Noninvasix as part of your investment portfolio. And now I'll open it up to questions.
Great, thank you, Graham, appreciate it. And for anyone watching this, there's a box there on the side of the Syndicate landing page that says Ask a Question. You can click there and that will link you to my team, and we will be able to answer any of those questions. If they are about the angelMD Syndicate process or if they're about Noninvasix, we will get them relayed to Graham to have them answered for you. I do have one question here for those of us who are not practicing physicians or doctors at all. Can you talk about Philips's presence in the NICU and in hospitals in general from a technology perspective, and why that makes this partnership with them so important given their market share?
Oh, yeah, well, so I mean, Philips, most of the NICUs that I have called on use Philips monitors. And so, as the market leader in patient monitoring, it's very easy for them to put our device in the salesman's bag, so to speak, as part of if we can get a distribution agreement with them in the future, that would be fantastic for, selling the device worldwide. They have a worldwide presence. I mentioned they monitor 300 million patients a year. Philips also has a very strong ultrasound department. I'm actually flying up to Boston next week to give a presentation. I'm giving a lecture to Philips Research, and then I'm meeting with their ultrasound group to talk about ways that we could integrate our technology into ultrasound. Last year, we filed a patent application for ultrasound targeted oximetry, and this would be the idea that you could visualize a blood vessel on an ultrasound, click a button, and get the oxygenation of that. And the applications for that kind of technology are enormous. We think the ideal use case is actually in ICU or in the emergency department, where you could use it for central venous oximetry, and then you have a non-invasive measurement of cardiac output. And I realized, John, that you asked me to explain that for lay people, and I ended on cardiac output. So that might have gotten too technical. I apologize.
No problem. Sunil or Jaggi, do you have any questions?
Yes, this is Sunil. Question. Have you looked at this also in terms of critical limb ischemia, in terms of applications? Right now, we rely on measurements such as the anchobrachial index, and will this something that we'll be able to identify issues more accurately and in real time.
Yeah, well, at this point, I usually have to disclaim that I'm not a physician. So the what we need in most cases is the ability to reach the blood vessel. And so, from my understanding, with something like a DVT, is that you'd want to be able to measure not only the presence of hemoglobin but also the presence of flow. And right now, we cannot give a rate of flow, but I could see incorporating that into an ultrasound where you would have that would probably give you a pretty good diagnostic device.
Yeah, and I was interested.
I don't.
Oh, sorry,
I don't know if that was
less
a good answer or not. I was kind of reaching.
Sure. No, I was less interested in the DVT, but more in terms of a arterial side of flow restriction and looking at limb ischemia. But thank you.
Oh, it was so along those lines. I was talking with a. So are you thinking more along the lines of say like during cardiac surgery, making sure that the arm is adequately perfused?
Or even outside of that, patients will present with injury to the lower extremities. You may be concerned about possible critical limb ischemia that may need revascularization or stenting, and whether it's trauma, whether it's arteriovascular disease, so several different reasons why that may be an issue. But I was looking at this technology as being something that would be more accurate than relying on measurements such as looking at a ratio between brachial and ankle pressures.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't looked too much into that area, but I mean, it's one of those things. The cool thing about this technology is every time I talk to a doctor, we get new ideas on ways to use it. And so, I don't really have an answer for that right now.
Thank you.
Graham.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Graham?
I can hear you just fine, Jackie.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. This is Jaggy again. I was curious, you've made all this headway with Philips thus far in terms of, over the past year, in terms of brainstorming with them, collaborating. Obviously, that's wonderful. In any way, do you find this relationship being restrictive in terms of your growth opportunity moving forward?
No, that's something I should caveat. At this point, we have no signed agreements with Philips. So that, we are under no restrictions. We are, there is no exclusivity in any way. Moving forward, should they, I can't say what the agreements would look like. That'll come up to a decision of the board whether or not to go forward with them. From what I understand, well, I don't want to speculate. So no, and I think one of the things that's interesting about this technology and its potential is the fact that it does have so many different uses. I think there's a lot of appeal to different companies in the ways to use this technology. And so before we were to do anything exclusive, I think we'd want to make sure that we had a lot of conversation. And when I put up that slide with the exit strategy, we've talked with most of the companies on that slide. So we are trying to make sure that we cover our bases. That said, Philips is being the market leader in patient monitoring, and with a strong ultrasound, they would be our ideal partner.
Okay. John, can I make a comment?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I wanted to also emphasize kind of, why I got behind, Graham and this particular technology early on is because I saw the value proposition in terms of the information that this particular tech application can have will, I potentially think, change algorithms in terms of, how we address patient care, whether it's in, again, the NICU, the ER, or in the operating room. As I vetted this platform or this type of technology, every other clinician I spoke to, that was the first thing they saw was the incredible potential to really kind of streamline and improve in how we address, some critically ill patients along the way. So, I think that to me, that's what makes it a game changer, is the fact that it will change, people's algorithms and protocols in terms of how we take care of these patients. The other thing I wanted to mention is just having had, worked with Graham here over the last year now, and just his accessibility, his incredible knowledge, and his relentless work ethic. And I want to just stress to investors, a lot of times when you're looking at these ventures, you're looking at the faces and the people behind these platforms and these technologies. And I can't say enough about Graham, in terms of our last year of working together and everything he brings to the table. It's just incredible.
Thank you, Jackie.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. If we don't have any other questions, again, I'll just give a reminder here that you can ask a question via the question box here on the side of the page. Should you have any other questions about angelMD, our syndicate process, or how this investment works, again, that phone number is the best way to research it, and we would be happy to get you any and all information that you need. We appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this with us this evening. Thanks so much, and have a great day.